Hey everyone, it is the start of a month, which means new resources for us all to learn. So let's get into it. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing on and making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, Max Bears. Pleasure to be sat chat with you, whatever time of day it is, morning, evening, or night. Thank you for choosing to spend your day, on part of your day, with me, with this smooth jazz. I haven't said that in absolutely years. So yeah, it's the start of a month. For those who may be new, this is where we talk about incredible resources put out by other developers that I think is really useful and I found interesting, and hopefully you will as well as you start to go through, improve your game dev process, style, and much more for that. Instead of a traditional sponsor, what I'm offering now is that of joining the mailing list. Social media is constantly changing all the time, as we're seeing some people are leaving Twitter, others are choosing to remain, Blue Sky, Threads, all of this. So it's really hard to reach out to all of you incredible aspiring and current game devs. So what I'm offering here is that of a emailing list. So if you want to be kept up to date with all of the great level design news, as well as get your free guide, which is my 10 tips towards better level design, then please join the mailing list. You'll be making sure to get 3 emails a week with me sharing that of different resources, ideas, as well as what I've learned through my career and some Q&As. So if you're constantly looking to improve level design and instead trying to figure out where all this information may be, then look no further than the mailing list. Check down in the description below to join now and get that of your 10 tips to improve your level design. So we're going to go to the first one, which is kind of a bit of a throwback, but it's one that I really enjoyed seeing, reading again, which was the pre-production blueprint, how to plan game environments and level design. And it is done by Alex, who's the host of World of Level Design. And I got this a fair few years ago, and if you see here, I've highlighted passages that I find really useful for it. If you're watching on YouTube, if not, then I can describe it as me having a blue highlighter pen and highlighting parts that I think are very useful and important just to reread over again for it. But it's really talking about the actual kind of pre-production, hence the name, in terms of how it is that we best plan for our levels and how it is that we are able to kind of go through and think further on what it is that we need to consider, what we need to take forward moving with us in order to actually go through and correctly move on to the production. Obviously, we see it a lot, we talk about it a lot on this, is a lot of people obviously want to talk more about, and especially a lot of the content on YouTube, right? Like, it's showing you people building things, which is incredible. But the reality of it all is that we need to make sure that we are planning accordingly, that we're able to go off and really think about what it is that we need in terms of information, what it is that information we need to share moving forward, and what is it that we kind of should not neglect as we go through each of these spaces and craft our levels for it. So I really recommend checking that one out. Again, it is always a good reminder, and I think it's good practices that Alex has wrote down for it, and I think it's one of the best level design books out there in my opinion for that one. And I think again it is that element of, especially if you're starting through, or even I think I got this when I was intermediate back at, or specialist it was called, back in the day, and it really helped me kind of slow my process down and make sure that I was able to understand things better for it. So I really think it's a good book to have go through and check it out. So do that. And again, all of these will be linked down in the description below if you want to go through and check these out for it. So the second one for this is a channel that I came across at the end of last year, and it's by indie game dev Thomas Brush, and he is known for that of Pinstripe, and I mean there's another game that he recently released as well, but that's how I recognize him. And he's got a great YouTube channel talking about that with other indie devs, how it is that they have succeeded, what it is they've learned along their journeys as well. And it's a very different perspective of game development that I'm not really privy to. I did indie very briefly in my career, and it was for like 5 months. So, and I worked at startups, but that was also very different. Some were funded by the whole NFT crypto craze back in the day as well. And yeah, I find their perspective very, very fascinating, very different for it. And in this one, he sat down and speaking with that of Edmund McMillan, who is especially known for that of Super Meat Boy, and I can't remember the full name, it was something Isaac, and he's got a very distinct style. He's a very interesting guy. And they just kind of talk about his whole process of being an indie dev, right? When you think about how he started even before Super Meat Boy, and then obviously got a huge amount of fame and claim to his name with the fact that he was starring in the, I think we saw it, Indie Game, I think it was the movie, the documentary, years and years ago that came out now, making me feel old, but one that I think, again, is just one that's worth going through and enjoying for it. And to me, just the fact that he's still making amazing things. I think they did a follow-up, and just the amount of money they all made on Super Meat Boy is amazing for it, and to see him constantly create and want to create, and his whole thoughts on interviews, right? And again, it's very different when you're a solo dev versus a member of a company. Like even now, right? Like there are things I cannot talk about and ways that I have to be cautious of how I even talk on this podcast, because the people may misconstrued of me representing the company, when right here, right now on the podcast, it's more about me, but I am still very much conscious in the back of the mind, man, what if I do say the wrong thing? But him having the freedom and his beliefs in those is always, again, very different, very fascinating for it. So I really, really do appreciate just hearing their opinions and the different thoughts. So that is going to be resource number 2. Resource number 3 is one that I picked up just at the start of this year in 2025, and that is the graphic novel of storyboards for the film Parasite by Bong Joon-ho, which, if you haven't seen Parasite, it's an incredible film. Bong Joon-ho, I've got his collection somewhere down there. Incredible director for it, but I think the thing that was fascinating to me has been, again, we talked about pre-production with the first resource for it, but is how films do have different pre-production, and what is it that we can still learn from one another, what is it that we can kind of still take away, right? We talk about these elements changing. Obviously, one of the biggest switches happened in the last couple of years for pre-production for game development, with less focus on PowerPoints and documents like that. We now have global documents with Miro, Milanote. I'm sure there's others, Notion as well, right? So there's so much out there that is changing everything. And I think for me, it's always fascinating to take a look at different mediums and how do they do it. What is the ones that they are after, right? What is it that we can do to best help communicate with one another and sell and pitch our ideas, right? I've been in plenty of meetings where I thought I'd pitched something so well, but people didn't understand it or didn't get approved for it, right? And I think that, to me, comes down to, again, how do we best sell, best communicate all of our ideas to one another as devs. So I'm always fascinated to see how different mediums approach it, what it is that we can do to improve all of that one. So seeing that of storyboards with it, and I think we briefly talked last month about AI, right, and how that's changing things, and now being able to use something like Midjourney. I think there are specific AI built for storyboards now that we can use to, again, sell these ideas much clearer to one another for it. So yeah, I'm fascinated to learn different ways and how people do it, and I just love to see to see and learn more of that. So yeah, hopefully, again, hopefully what I'm sharing this about pre-production is pre-production doesn't have to be boring, time wasting that some people see it as, right? We are all creative people, and we can choose to share that information how we want. I think we spoke about it last time. I mean, before with Yoshi's Yarn World. It came out probably a decade ago now, but one of their designers, because she was very good at knitting, what she'd done was like knitted some of these stages for people to use. I've seen other people use Lego, obviously in the TT games. They actually had access to all these Legos and would prototype levels by building it, right? Like, that's incredible. So it's very different still for it. You know, years ago I tried to experiment with those one picture things for it. So yeah, just a lot again out there with that for us to try, and maybe there's a way in that for it. But I think it's also amazing to remind yourself, if you look at some of those images, it's not an insult when I say this, that we also all get so bogged down in being like, oh my goodness, we need to show the finished product. People, my work's not ready to show, versus like, no, people understand, hey, that work is not the final one. Its purpose is to sell the idea, sell it moving forward. And I think that's always a fantastic one to have. So now we'll jump on over to another one focusing on an indie dev. And this is a really fascinating one by Aramis, who has recently gone into solo development. And he talks about after 9 months of being a solo dev, what was it like? And his own kind of struggles with that, right? Like, he felt that his game, I think this came out, it came out just before the start of 2025, and he talks about where he thought the game would be by now, but where it's not. And to see his kind of frustration with himself, and also the huge undertaking, I think in the last episode of Essential Reading, we talked about how a solo game dev had a new member join, and his thought process at the end of it was, no, I've just got to develop it myself, versus actually, no, you need to be better at communicating really for it. And again, we can all come to different conclusions. That's mine versus we're saying there's no right or wrong answer, but we're seeing it's fascinating to see the other side of all of this, where I'm fortunate enough where I've worked in teams which has been close to thousands for it. I've worked teams with hundreds, and I've worked teams in tens, right? But I've only done personal projects by myself. There was, I can't remember what it's called. Like, it was a mobile game I'd made. I'll have to find it. Which was like 6 levels long. It was just a simple jump, swipe right to do like a crash move, jump on enemies' heads. You know, it was all right for myself. It was something I was building during uni, and that was tough. I ended up, like, I had planned for 14 levels or something. I cut it down to 6 in the end, just because it was trying to do that while working at Ubisoft at the time was really, really hard. So I couldn't imagine taking your money, your own personal money, and kind of gambling with that, and not being caught up in the constant make it bigger, because bigger means better, and we all know that's not true either. So yeah, that was a really fascinating one, just to hear a different side of it. So I really did appreciate his thoughts on the challenges of it. It's just a great one to see. And then the final one is not actually fully with game development, but it's one that I really just thought, again, just showing how crazy tech is getting. And that one is Creating Your Own Metahuman by Bad Decision Studios, which is just a pair of lads who are able to just go through, animate, make great things just with the tools out there. But they basically take that of one of their friends, and with the tools that they have, basically recreate her in Metahuman. And I've not done much work in Metahuman. Obviously, Ninja has done work with them, but it wasn't in my department. And just seeing again how and where all of this can go, where it will go, and tools available to us to just use is incredible for it. So I really, blown away by it, and it just is something different again for it. So I hope it's interesting enough for all of you to again just see tools that may inspire you in different ways to move forward later, right? And I think that's always fun to see how others work, different disciplines, and how it can just create something that can inspire us down the road in different ways. So yeah, I hope that is a fun one for it. I appreciate your time for it all, team, and yeah, enjoy yourself. All of these will be down below again to relist them for it. The first recommendation is Pre-Production Blueprint by Alex from the world of level design. The second one is the interview by Thomas Brush to that of Edmund Macmillan. Third being the Parasite, I forget, storyboard book with it. Fourth then being 9 months as a solo dev, and the final video being creating your own Metahuman online. Yeah, some good ones for it. I hope you enjoy, hope you're inspired, keep making amazing things. If you do want to reach out and share things with the other members on the channel, then please let's go get in contact with me over at leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. You can reach out to me also on X/Twitter, which is @MaxPairs. You can do so on Blue Sky, which is where I've just recently joined end of 2024 as well. So please get in contact if you're there, which again is just @MaxPairs. And yeah, thank you all very, very much. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you all next time.